out on the forgotten backroads of America, the places where GPS fails, cell service dies, and fog clings to the windshield like it's trying to get in. Truckers have seen things they'll never speak of again. But tonight, we're breaking that silence. These are 9 of the most disturbing true remote route trucker stories ever told, and they might just change how you look at that lonely stretch of highway. If you're new here, welcome to Creepy Souls, where we share the stories people are too afraid to tell. Drop a like. It helps this story reach more horror fans like you. Comment where you're watching from. Every viewer is part of my horror family. And let me know which story chilled you the most. Hit subscribe. Your support helps us continue to bring you terrifying tales week after week. I've been hauling livestock for over 15 years, mostly pigs and cattle, running routes from Asheville out toward Memphis, sometimes dipping down through Georgia if the loads require. But I've always had a soft spot for the Blue Ridge stretch, especially that winding corridor around Bryson City, North Carolina. The mountains out there feel ancient, quiet, the kind of quiet that settles into your bones. It was early October, the kind of night where the air smells like damp leaves and diesel. I'd picked up a load of beef cattle just outside Robbinsville and was pushing eastbound along Route 74. It was a little after 2 a.m., the sky clear but moonless, and the only thing lighting the road was my rig's high beams cutting through. The dense darkness. That stretch is desolate. No street lamps, no cell towers, no houses for miles. Just forest. Walls of pine and oak, dark and tangled. The road twists and dips, and you learn not to trust your GPS out there. You drive by feel and memory. I was sipping lukewarm coffee from a travel mug and humming along to an old Travis Tritt song on low volume when I saw her. At first, I thought it was a deer, or maybe someone walking a dog. But there was no flashlight, no movement from side to side. Just this girl, pale, thin, maybe 16 or 17, walking barefoot along the shoulder with her arms wrapped tight around her chest. I hit the brakes harder than I should have. The cattle stirred in the trailer. Few let out anxious groans as the rig hissed to a stop. I leaned over, flicked on the dome light, and grabbed my flashlight from the passenger seat. I stepped down from the cab. But she was gone. Just like that. Gone. Swear on my father's grave. She didn't run, didn't dart into the woods. I was scanning the tree line, shining my light through the underbrush, calling out, "Hey, you okay? You need help?" Nothing. No footsteps. No voice. Not even the crackle of leaves or twigs. Just silence. The kind of silence that makes you realize how truly alone you are out there. I got back into the cab, unsettled but trying to be rational. I thought maybe I imagined her. Long night. Too much. Caffeine. Shadows playing tricks. But something kept nagging at me. The clarity of her outline. The way the light hit her bare legs. The way her dark hair hung wet around her face like she'd come up out of a river. It just didn't feel like a hallucination. I didn't sleep when I pulled off near Silva around 4:30 a.m. I just parked at the way station and sat there with the engine off, sipping what was left of my coffee and watching fog creep down from the ridges. Around 6 a.m. Just before sunrise, I remembered my dash cam. I always keep it running, especially on livestock runs. Between insurance and the risk of someone pulling out in front of an 18-wheeler, it saved me more than once. I rewound the footage. Played it twice. 3 times. Nothing. Just open road. No girl. Not even a flicker or glitch where she should have been. But here's the thing that chilled me to my core. When I stepped out of the cab to check my mirrors before pulling back onto the highway, there was a handprint on the passenger side mirror. Small. Too small to be mine. Too low to be from any of the cattle. And it was fresh. I wiped it off with a rag, but I could still see the smear of it, like it had come from something not quite dry, almost damp, like swamp water. I didn't tell anyone at first. Too weird, too vague. But over the next few days, things got worse. It started with the cattle. One of the steers from that same run refused to eat for 2 days straight. Wouldn't stop staring into the corner of its pen, just pacing and bellowing low, like something was in there with it. Then I started having dreams. Always the same one, emo. Driving that same route, same time of night, and my high beams flicker out for a split second. When they come back on, the girl is standing in the middle of the road, her face pale as chalk, eyes wide. She opens her mouth like she's screaming, but there's no sound. Just silence. Always silence. And every morning when I wake up, I find dirt on the floor beside my bed. Sometimes muddy footprints like someone walked in barefoot. I live alone. No pets. After a week, I told a buddy of mine, Cal, another long-haul driver. We've run a few tandem jobs before. He's a no-nonsense guy. Doesn't spook easy. He raised an eyebrow but didn't laugh. Instead, he said, "You been through Bryson City again lately?" "No," I said. "Why?" He nodded slowly. "Stay that way." I did some digging after that. Started asking around at diners, rest stops, trucker lounges. Most folks laughed it off. But a waitress outside Cherokee gave me this weird look when I mentioned a barefoot girl on Route 74. Said she'd heard something like that before, years back. A girl went missing after a high school bonfire. Vanished during a foggy night walk home. Some folks say she drowned, others think she ran off. But her body was never found. No one knows for sure. Local legend is, she shows up to drivers who've ignored the pull. I didn't understand what that meant. The pull, until my next route. It was about 9 days later. I was headed through Franklin this time, back toward Murphy, skirting the same stretch of road, but from the west. The weather was different, clear. No clouds, no fog. But about 10 miles from where I saw her, my truck jerked hard. Like I'd hit something, but the road was clear. Everything flickered, the lights, the dash, even the CB crackled like a lightning strike had hit nearby. My engine sputtered, the radio kicked on by itself. And I swear to God, I heard a girl's voice whisper, "Why didn't you stop this time?" I slammed the brakes and sat frozen. The CB was quiet again, just a low hum. I got out slowly, flashlight in hand. And there she was. This time, not on the shoulder, not walking. She was crouched beside the tree line, facing away, her arms wrapped around her knees. Her back was rising and falling like she was sobbing. I called out. She didn't move. I took one step toward her, and she stood up straight. No hesitation, no transition, like her body was pulled upright by a string. Still didn't turn around. I started backing away, my light trembling. In my hand. She finally turned to look at me. But her eyes were gone. Just black hollows where they should have been. And her mouth hung open wider than it should have. Like her jaw wasn't connected right. Like it had been broken and never healed. She started walking toward me, barefoot, dragging one leg slightly behind her. I turned and ran. I didn't care about leaving the truck. I just ran down the road until my lungs gave out. When I finally looked back, she was gone again. But my rig's headlights were still on, engine idling. I climbed back in, shaking, and drove straight through the night. Didn't stop, didn't sleep. The next morning, when I pulled into a truck wash near Waynesville, one of the guys came up to me and said, "You all right, man?" I nodded. He pointed at the passenger side. "There's something smeared on your trailer." I stepped out, walked around, and saw a mud. Or maybe old blood. Hard to tell. Someone or something had written one word across the back panel. Stay. That was 3 weeks ago. I've since rerouted all my jobs south through Georgia. But every now and then my CB picks up faint static around 2 a.m., even in places I've never had issues before. And once, just once, I swear I heard breathing. I wish I could say I never went back. That I stuck to the Georgia routes and left Route 74 in my rear view for good. But if you've done long haul for as long as I have, you know how it goes. Dispatch doesn't care about your ghost stories. If the money's right and the load's hot, you haul. 3 weeks after the trailer incident, the word "stay" smeared in what looked like dried blood or clay. I got offered a triple load bonus for a last-minute livestock run from Andrews to Asheville. No other drivers were available. Time-sensitive drop. Route 74 was the fastest way through the mountains. I stared at the job sheet for a long while. The pay was damn good. And some part of me, deep down, wanted to know if I imagined the whole thing. Maybe it was stress, lack of sleep, a bad dream that lingered and turned into a story. So I accepted it. Told myself I'd keep the doors locked, the CB off, and just drive. No stops. I left around midnight, just past a light drizzle that turned. The road slick. The moon was out this time, though weak behind cloud cover, enough to throw pale reflections across the blacktop. I kept my music off and the windows cracked just to hear everything. The cattle were unusually quiet. No mooing, no shifting, just the low huff of breath and the occasional stomp. That was the first sign something was wrong. They always make noise on a curve, always. And then the static returned. Around the same spot near Bryson City. My CB lit up even though I hadn't turned it on. Just a soft, dragging shh that rose in volume, then dipped again like breathing. I reached over and twisted the knob to shut it off. Nothing happened. The dial was already off. I even unplugged the unit from the side console. Static still hissed from the speaker like it had a heartbeat. That's when the headlights flickered. Just once. Like something passed directly in front of the truck. I leaned forward, hands tight on the wheel, eyes scanning the darkness beyond the reach of my beams. And then, clear as day, a figure appeared in the road. Not walking. Not standing. Just there. I hit the brakes and the whole rig groaned. The cattle shifted violently in the trailer. Dust flew from the dashboard vents as the truck skidded slightly sideways and came to a stop. She was standing maybe 20 feet ahead. Same long, wet hair. Same pale skin. But she was older now? No, taller maybe. Her clothes were soaked like she'd come up from a lake. And in her hands she held something. I couldn't tell what it was at first. Thought maybe a bundle of clothes. But as she lifted it toward her chest, I saw it was a dead animal. A rabbit, maybe. Its fur was matted with mud, and something long and red dangled from its side. She dropped it in the middle of the road and stepped backward into the woods. Not turned. Stepped backward, without looking. Until she was swallowed by the trees. I didn't move, didn't blink, didn't breathe. I just stared at that animal, its legs twitching faintly like it wasn't fully dead. I threw the truck into reverse, backed up 50 yards and gunned it past the spot. Didn't look at the rabbit, didn't look into the trees. I drove until I reached the outskirts of Asheville and parked at a Flying J, just off I-40. Inside, I locked myself in the restroom and splashed cold water on my face until it felt like I might break through my own reflection. And then I did something I hadn't done in years. I called my sister. She used to work at a crisis center in Boone, did some grief counseling and paranormal support stuff on the side. She's always been the sensitive one in the family. I told her everything. Every damn detail. She listened in silence and then said very calmly, "Clay, did you ever leave anything behind out there?" I didn't know what she meant. Then she asked, "Have you ever hit something on those roads? An animal? A person? Even accidentally?" That's when it clicked. 7 years ago, 2016. I did hit something on Route 74. I never told anyone. It was late October, Halloween weekend. I was hauling an empty trailer after a canceled pickup near Robbinsville. Roads were slick. I came around a sharp bend too fast and clipped something in the dark. It looked like a dog at first. Black, low to the ground. But when I stopped and checked the shoulder, there was nothing. Just drag marks in the gravel and a smell I'll never forget, like wet earth and old copper. I convinced myself it was a deer or a coyote, but in the weeks after, I had nightmares of something crawling beside my bed. Something with long fingers and no face. Eventually, they stopped. But now I wonder if that was the beginning. If I didn't just see a ghost, maybe I woke something up. After that call, I started keeping records. writing down dates, times, locations when the CB acted up, when I saw movement in the mirror, when my headlights dimmed at the same curve near Bryson City. It wasn't just once or twice. It was every time I drove through there, no matter how fast I went. And it always escalated. One night, the driver door opened on its own while I was moving, at 45 miles per hour. Another time, I pulled into a rest stop and came back to find the passenger seatbelt buckled, tight, like someone had been sitting there. The final straw came 2 weeks ago. I was driving a poultry load from Tennessee down through Murphy. About 20 miles before the Bryson curve, I started hearing scratching on the inside of the cab wall behind me, like fingernails dragging slowly across the metal. I pulled over, stepped out, and checked the trailer. Nothing. But when I climbed back into the cab, there was condensation on the inside of the windshield. Like breath. And drawn into the fog was a single word: why? That night, I booked a motel in Andrews and left the truck parked in a lot under a streetlight. Around 3 a.m. I woke up to the sound of tapping. Not from the window. From the mirror. The room's wall mirror. Just faint little taps, rhythmic, like knuckles. I covered the mirror with a towel and sat in the bathtub until dawn. I've since quit long haul. I moved in with my sister outside Boone. She says she's helping me ground myself. I don't know what that means exactly, but I've been chopping wood, feeding chickens, living quiet. But here's the thing. Last night we lost power. The house went dark around 2:10 a.m. I checked the fuse box. Nothing tripped. Just darkness. And then the static started. Not on a CB this time. On my sister's baby monitor. Her kid's only 6 months old. Sweetest little thing you've ever seen. We keep the monitor on a nightstand in the hallway. It lit up. Static, then breathing, then a voice. You saw me. I rushed to the nursery, heart pounding, thinking the worst. But the baby was sound asleep. Window locked. Crib untouched. Except on the mirror above the changing table, a small, fresh handprint. Too small to be mine. Too small to be my sister's. And definitely not the baby's. That's why I'm writing this. Not for sympathy. Not for answers. But so if you're ever driving Route 74 near Bryson City, and you see a barefoot girl on the side of the road, don't stop, don't speak. And whatever you do, don't look in your mirrors. I've driven through almost every back road and mountain pass east of the Mississippi, and if there's one thing I've learned after 20 years hauling small engine parts across the country, it's this. The Appalachian Mountains don't play by the same rules as everywhere else. The roads up there don't just curve and climb, they shift. They breathe. One day you've got clear blacktop cutting through tall pine, and the next it feels like the forest swallowed a stretch hole. Most of the time, I chalk that up to fog or memory playing tricks. Until one night, near White Top, Virginia, I found a place that doesn't show up on any GPS, doesn't take card, and disappears the second you drive away. This happened about 6 months ago, in early spring. I was on a late-night delivery run headed toward Asheville. My usual route took me down through I-81, but I was trying to make up for lost time from a blown tire earlier in the day, so I took a series of shortcuts through the southwestern stretch of Virginia, places where cell signal drops before your music does. I rolled through Damascus around midnight. Everything was quiet. I had about half a tank left in the box truck, but I figured I'd top it off just in case. That's when I saw the sign. Fuel 1 mile ahead. White reflective letters nailed to an old telephone pole, half covered in vines. Didn't even look official. No gas station name, just fuel. But sure enough, a minute or so later, a right-hand gravel cutoff appeared, narrow, lined with thick evergreens, and dimly lit by a pair of old flood lamps barely hanging on a wooden overhang. The place looked like it hadn't been updated since the Reagan era. Just one pump, no logo, no credit card reader. A squat little brick building with yellow light bleeding through lace curtains in the window. I figured, what the hell, and pulled in. Inside. The place was cramped, maybe the size of a walk-in closet. Smelled like dust, mothballs, and old heating oil. There were a few dusty racks of jerky, faded maps, a jar of pickled eggs that had turned nearly brown, and a small, ancient register behind a smudged plastic partition. The clerk was an old man, with a gray beard, long, greasy hair tucked behind his ears, and a camouflage jacket with a patch that said Denny. "Evenin'," I said, offering a polite nod. "You open?" He didn't look at me right away, just stared at the flickering black and white TV bolted in the corner behind him. Some static-filled footage of what looked like a forest fire. After a second, he turned slowly and nodded once. "Cash only," he said, voice low and rough like gravel under boots. I handed him a $20 and asked for pump access. He handed me a key attached to a piece of deer antler. No receipt, no pump number. Just, "It'll click off when it's full." I was halfway back out the door when I turned and asked him something I now wish I never had. "Hey," I said, "you know if 221's clear ahead? Trying to make it to Asheville before dawn." He blinked. Then leaned forward. "You'll pass a green mile marker once you're out of these woods," he muttered. "Whatever you do, don't take the turn after it." I paused. "What turn?" He shook his head and looked back at the TV. "Doesn't always show up, but if you see it, just keep driving." Now, I've heard my fair share of local weirdness from gas station attendants, barbers, and bartenders, but something about the way he said it chilled me. Didn't sound like a threat. Sounded like a warning. I filled up and got the hell out of there. No receipt, no card swipe, no Wi-Fi, and strangely, not a single brand name anywhere. No Shell, no Gulf, not even a broken Coca-Cola sign. Back on the road. I didn't think much about the mile marker or the old man's warning. I was more focused on my tired eyes and the mist starting to roll in over the mountains. That stretch between White Top and the North Carolina border is nothing but switchbacks and dips through forest that hasn't seen a chainsaw in decades. Trees leaned close to the road, their branches tangled like fingers, and even with high beams on, I could only see about 30 feet ahead. And then I saw it. A green mile marker on the right. Mile 211. I remembered the clerk's voice. "Don't take the turn after it." But curiosity's a dangerous thing. About 40 seconds later, I saw it. A break in the trees. There shouldn't have been anything there. No roads are marked on any map in that stretch. And I checked before the trip. But here it was, a narrow paved turnoff. No sign, no name. The pavement was cracked and swallowed at the edges by moss and weeds, but it was definitely a road. Looked like it hadn't seen use in years. Without thinking, I slowed. I didn't turn. Just hovered near it for a second. And that's when I noticed something. The forest went silent. No bugs. No frogs. No wind. Nothing. Just the sound of my engine, idling, and my own breath in the cab. I pressed the gas and moved on. Didn't look back. The next morning, I stopped at a diner just outside Asheville. One of those places with wood paneling, ceiling fans that don't move, and mugs that have been chipped since the Clinton administration. I asked the waitress, an older woman with teased hair and a Blue Ridge Parkway t-shirt, if she'd ever heard of a station near White Top, one with a gravel pull-off old pump guy named Denny. She gave me a blank stare. "There's nothing out that way but forest and old fire roads," she said. I pulled out my phone, tried to bring up my route. From the night before. No log. No GPS trail. My history stopped at Damascus and picked up again right outside Asheville. Nothing in between. I drove back up that same stretch 3 days later. No sign. No gravel road. No gas station. No turn after mile marker 211. It was gone. Like it had never existed. But here's where things really started to go sideways. About 2 weeks later, I started waking up at 2:11 a.m. every single night. Exact time. Checked the clock each time. First few nights, nothing happened. I figured it was just stress or a caffeine crash messing with my sleep. Then I started hearing something outside the house. I live alone in a double wide on a wooded lot near Marion. Quiet area. No neighbors for at least a quarter mile. But around 2:11 a.m., I'd hear crunching gravel, like someone walking slow across my driveway. I'd get up, peek through the blinds, flashlight ready. No one there. No tracks. No movement. Just silence. That deep, suffocating silence I remembered from the woods. And then last night changed everything. Same wake up. 2:11 a.m. sharp. This time I heard something brush against the trailer, like fingertips dragging along the aluminum siding. Then a soft knock on the back door. 3 taps. Not loud. Not urgent. Just patient. I didn't open it. Just sat there in my kitchen holding a kitchen knife, heart pounding in my ears. Eventually, it stopped. But when I worked up the nerve to go outside with a light, there were marks on the siding. Faint, but there. Scrapes. Like someone had written something. Not in letters. Just scratches. A circular pattern that I swear to God matched the end of that old deer antler key from the station. I didn't sleep after that, didn't go to work, didn't eat. I just sat in my truck with the engine off, parked on the side of the old logging road near my house, thinking about what the hell I saw that night in White Top. And I finally made a decision. I'm going back. I don't know what I'll find. Or if I'll find it at all. But there's a road that doesn't show up on maps, a turn that shouldn't exist. And something out there wants me to take it. I left just before dusk. Didn't pack much. Just a flashlight, a thermos of coffee, and my grandfather's old .38 that I hadn't touched in years. I wasn't even sure it worked. But it felt right, holding something with weight as I climbed into the truck and headed back toward White Top. The sky bled orange and pink over the ridgelines as I drove. I kept the radio off and my phone in the glove box. I didn't want distractions. This wasn't about proving something anymore. It was about finishing something that had started when I took that gas station turn and ignored what I knew better than to ignore. I figured if I got close enough, maybe that turn would be there again. Maybe it would show itself. Or maybe it had been waiting. By the time I reached Damascus, the sun had dipped behind the trees, and fog had started curling off the hills like smoke from an unseen fire. The forest looked deeper somehow, darker, like the trees had pulled closer to the road in my absence. No GPS, no service. Just me, a winding stretch of asphalt, and a gut-deep feeling that I was being pulled back into something older than the road itself. And then, right as I passed mile marker 211, I saw it. The turn. Same cracked blacktop. Same moss-eaten shoulder. Still no name, no signs. But this time I didn't hesitate. I took it. The road narrowed fast, barely wide enough for my truck. Branches scraped the sides as I crept forward, the headlights catching glimpses of stone outcroppings and thick underbrush that looked untouched for decades. The air turned cold. Not just cooler, cold, like I'd driven into a different season. And then I saw it, a faint glow ahead. I slowed to a crawl. There, tucked back behind the trees, was the gas station. Same one. Same cracked windows. Same one floodlight casting. A sickly yellow cone over the pump. I parked and got out, the gravel crunching under my boots like it was echoing into a tunnel. The place was dead quiet. No insects. No wind. Just the faint buzz of that old light. The front door stood open this time. Not wide. Just cracked, like it had been left ajar for me. I stepped inside. The air hit me like stepping into a cellar, damp, stale, and full of that same old mothball smell. The layout was the same, but everything looked older, more decayed. The maps were curling at the corners. The jar of pickled eggs was now just cloudy water and mush. The floor creaked with every step, like it hadn't borne weight in years. And behind the register, no Denny. Just a wooden chair. Empty. But something lay on the counter. A piece of paper, brittle with age, yellowed and wrinkled. I picked it up. One sentence written in faded ink. It only shows up for the ones who already turned. I didn't understand. I hadn't turned. Not the first time. I'd kept driving, unless I had and I didn't remember. Unless that road didn't need your wheels to turn. Just your mind. I dropped the note and backed out slowly. The woods were darker now, the air heavier. It felt like something was pressing in from all sides. Then I heard it. Footsteps. Soft, measured, behind the building. I drew the .38 and called out, "Hey, I'm armed." The footsteps paused. Then started again, faster, circling. I turned, heart hammering, and caught a glimpse of movement in the tree line. Too fast, too low to the ground. Then a sound, a whisper. Right behind me. "You saw it, that's enough." I spun, but no one was there. Just trees. I ran back to the truck, breath fogging in the air, hands shaking so hard I nearly dropped the keys, threw it in reverse and peeled out. Tires spitting gravel as I tore back toward the main road. But the trees didn't look the same anymore. The road didn't feel like it was leading out. Every curve felt wrong, too sharp, or too familiar. Drove for what felt like an hour. Maybe two. And then my headlights hit something ahead. I slammed the brakes. It was a green mile marker. 211. No. I couldn't have looped back. I hadn't turned around. And yet, here it was. And just past it. The turn. I sat there staring, engine idling. That's when I heard the knock. 3. Taps. Not on the door. From inside the cab. From the passenger seat. I didn't want to look. I knew what I'd see. I turned anyway. And there she was. Not a person. Not a thing. Just a presence. Shaped like a girl, but wrong in every way. Black hair matted with mud. Skin pale and bloated like something dredged from the bottom of a lake. Her mouth hung open in a silent scream. And her eyes. God help me. Her eyes weren't eyes at all. Just mirrors. Reflecting me. Twisting me. Holding me. I don't remember the rest of the drive. I woke up in my driveway near dawn, truck door open, engine off, windshield smeared with handprints. No cell service. No GPS history. No record of the route. But on the seat beside me, the old deer antler key. I hadn't taken it. Hadn't touched it since the first time. But there it was. Slick with something wet. I haven't driven since. I sold the truck a week later, bought a used Chevy, no electronics. I don't leave town much, anymore, and I sure as hell don't drive at night. But sometimes, when I'm up late staring out past the tree line that hugs my property, I see headlights moving through the woods. No road. Just lights. Searching. Like something trying to find its way back. Or worse, trying to find me. I've been driving long-haul routes since I was 23, mostly freight and some livestock, and I've seen my share of weirdness out on the roads. Especially once you start threading through Appalachia, those deep woods hollers and forgotten coal towns where the trees lean in close and the fog moves like it's looking for something. But what happened to me outside Beckley, West Virginia, that still sits with me. Not in a spooky story kind of way, I mean it sits with me. Like a stone in my gut. Like something followed me home and hasn't left. This was back in March, just after the last snowmelt. I'd picked up a partial load from Columbus, steel beams, nothing unusual, and I was cutting through West Virginia en route to Bluefield. I usually stick to the main arteries, but this particular run had me rerouted down a narrow two-lane that dipped in and out of state parks and mining country. I remember it being early evening. The kind of late winter dusk where the sky turns pale orange behind the trees and the whole world looks like it's running out of breath. I had just topped off at a little station outside Oak Hill and was coasting downhill when I hit the tunnel. No signage. No name. Just a wide, stone-mouthed tunnel carved straight through the hillside. It wasn't on my route log. I thought maybe the GPS had pulled an update while I still had signal. Some old coal road shortcut. Didn't think much of it at the time. As soon as I entered the tunnel, everything changed. It was long, longer than it should have been, and there were no lights inside, just the reflection of my own headlights on damp stone. The walls looked older than anything I'd seen in years. blackened with soot, roots clawing through the cracks. The kind of tunnel that wasn't built for passenger cars but mining carts, maybe built a century ago then forgotten. I reached down to hit my headlights to high beam and noticed my phone had lost all signal. No bars. Not even SOS. That wasn't unusual. Happens a lot in the mountains. But then, my CB crackled. Now, I keep the CB on low while I drive, mostly to listen for wrecks, DOT checkpoints, chatter from other drivers. I hadn't heard anything all day. But now it came alive with a sharp hiss of static. Then a voice. Calm, male, sounded close. Not like it was coming over the radio, like it was coming from inside the cab, but still carried that grainy distortion of CB compression. I remember exactly what it said. Last load, last light, last breath. Then it repeated, last load, last light, last breath. I reached down and turned the volume knob off. Didn't stop. Still coming through. I shut the whole unit off. Still kept talking. The loop started over. Then changed. Inbound. 38.496 by 81.187. Timestamp 0210 hours. Repeat. Those were coordinates. I didn't recognize them offhand, but I was pretty sure it was somewhere in the same area, southern West Virginia, near the Kentucky border. It kept repeating the numbers, then back to the phrase, last load, last light, last breath. By now I'd slowed to a crawl. My headlights barely reached ahead. The walls of the tunnel felt like they were breathing in, tightening. I started to feel pressure in my ears like cabin compression in a descending airplane. My teeth ached. Then everything went black. Not my lights. The world. Like someone flipped a switch. Total blackout. No headlights. No dash lights. No sound. Not even the rumble of the engine. Just gone. I slammed the brakes, hard. My body jolted forward, seatbelt locking across my chest, and then nothing. No motion. Just cold. Silence. Black. Then just as suddenly as it vanished, everything came back online. Lights. Engine. CB. Silent again. I was still in the tunnel. I exhaled and realized I'd been holding my breath. My hand was shaking on the wheel. My pulse thudded in my ears. I pushed forward. 30 seconds later, I came out the other side straight into full night. I pulled off at the first safe shoulder I could find and jumped out, breathing hard, blinking, like I'd just left a sensory deprivation tank. My truck smelled like burnt metal and old water. The tires were caked in wet, gray sludge that hadn't been there before. It smelled like sulfur and ash. I checked the CB unit again. Still powered. Off. I even pulled the wire. I checked the dash cam. It had frozen. The timestamp showed 2:10 a.m., but I knew I'd gone into that tunnel before 7 p.m. I got back on the road, nerves frayed, trying to rationalize everything. Maybe a weird EMF pocket? Maybe the tunnel had old mining tech that screwed with signals. It didn't make sense, but at least it sounded plausible. I delivered the load. Didn't say a word about the tunnel to dispatch. But when I got home 3 days later, I did one thing I couldn't shake. I plugged those coordinates into Google Maps. They dropped me right back into West Virginia, a patch of forest south of Beckley. But here's the thing. There's no road there. No tunnel. Just elevation contours, and a note on the satellite image. Site of 1968. Shaft collapse. Do not enter. I started to feel sick. I looked up old newspaper scans, historical mining records, anything I could find. That shaft collapse. It was a coal mine tunnel that caved in during a midnight shift. 6 men died. Only one body was ever recovered. The rest were entombed when the emergency crews had to seal the opening with concrete to prevent further collapse. The date of the incident? March 3 RD. Time of collapse, 2:10 a.m. I couldn't sleep after that. I kept waking up around the same time each night, 2:10. Never earlier. Never later. No dreams. Just awareness. Like something was hovering at the edge of the bed. I finally called my dispatcher a week later to ask about that route. Told him I'd taken a shortcut through a tunnel and asked what it was called, if they'd rerouted others that way. There was a pause on the line. Then he said, "Kyle, we don't have any record of a tunnel on that leg. GPS must have glitched. That stretch has been closed off since the 80s. No throughway anymore. You sure you weren't just tired?" I didn't argue. Just hung up. 2 weeks later, I took another job that brought me within 15 miles of Beckley. Against my better judgment, I decided to see for myself. Just to check. Just to prove that it had happened. I traced my original path as best I could. Found the curve. Found the tree line. And there it was. The tunnel entrance. Completely sealed in concrete. Fresh sealant. New rebar. No graffiti. No cracks. Just a smooth, seamless wall of gray. No markings. No sign. No indication it had ever been opened. It looked like it had been that way for years. But here's the thing. In the middle of that slab, just at eye level, was a rusted metal plaque bolted into the concrete. No dates. No names. Just 3 words. Etched deep into the surface. Last load. Last light. Last breath. I told myself I was done. After seeing that plaque. Those same words that whispered through my CB that night. I should have walked away. Should have blocked out the coordinates, thrown out the dash cam, and buried the memory like the mine they sealed. But it didn't let go. The dreams got worse. Always the same. I'm back in the tunnel. Only this time it's flooded. The walls drip, black water, and I can hear breathing behind me. Not heavy or fast, just steady, calm, like someone's waiting. And when I try to turn and look, the lights go out. Every time. A few weeks after I revisited the tunnel, I got a call from someone I hadn't spoken to in years. Ray Monroe, a former driver I used to run tandem hauls with back when we were hauling scrap out of Knoxville. He sounded rattled. Asked if I'd been through southern West Virginia recently. Said he'd gotten a weird CB ping while parked overnight off Route 19. Coordinates and a phrase that repeated every 15 minutes. Final manifest, 6 below. I asked him to forward the exact audio. He did. Same voice. Calm, male, grainy and hollow. Only this time it ended with a new line. Manifest incomplete. I knew I shouldn't have, but I packed up and headed back. Told myself I was just documenting, taking photos, confirming things for Ray, making sure I wasn't losing my damn mind. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. Didn't want to hear. Man, just let it go. I left early in the morning and arrived just after sundown. This time I parked about a half mile up the hill and hiked in. Flashlight in one hand and my old .38 tucked under my coat. The woods were heavy with mist. Dead quiet. Just the crunch of my boots on damp leaves and the occasional groan of trees, swaying above. And then I reached the concrete wall. Still sealed. But something had changed. There were footprints. Bare. Human. Leading up to the wall, and stopping. No prints coming back. I crouched down and felt the concrete. Cold. Damp. Like it had just been poured. Except that plaque, the one with the last load inscription, was gone. Just rusted bolt holes where it had been. No plaque. No message. Just a faint set of scratches like someone had clawed at the wall. And something else. Something I hadn't noticed before. About 10 feet up, high above where anyone could reach, a small metal vent was bolted into the concrete. I climbed a nearby tree, awkward and slow, and managed to get close enough to shine my light through the grate. Inside was blackness. But as I leaned in, I heard it. Breathing. Slow. Rhythmic. Like someone asleep. I held my breath and listened. And then a voice. Right against the metal. Manifest. Complete. I slipped and fell halfway out of the tree, slammed into the forest floor, and scrambled back to my feet. My heart was in my throat. But there was no movement, no voice after that. Just silence. I didn't sleep that night. Stayed in. My truck parked at a 24-hour laundromat in Beckley with all the lights on, watching shadows twitch on the linoleum floor while the vending machine hummed behind me. The next morning, I went to the local records office. I told them I was researching a defunct coal route for a family project. They weren't exactly helpful, but one older woman, Sandy, I think her name was, offered to pull archived property maps. She brought out an old binder that smelled like mildew and stale tobacco. We flipped through surveyor plats and I finally spotted it, an unlabeled tunnel running beneath what used to be Barlow Ridge Shaft 3, listed as condemned in 1968 after multiple structural failures. The note at the bottom stopped me cold. Final recovery effort halted at manifest site. 5 accounted, 6th presumed unrecoverable. I went back one last time. This time, I brought something with me. A portable handheld receiver. Not a CB. Not cell. Something older. A short-range ham radio I'd borrowed from a retired ham operator buddy in Asheville. I tuned it as close to the original CB frequency as I could manage, then let it sit outside the tunnel wall. Nothing for 10 minutes. Then static. Then a voice, whispering. Manifest, complete, last breath. Final entry recorded. I asked, out loud, "Who are you?" Silence. Then, very faintly, "You came back." Then something else. Static that grew louder. Not random. It started taking on a rhythm. It was breathing. And underneath it, the sound of someone dragging something heavy across concrete. That's when the vent above me let out a soft, hissing exhale of warm air. And ash. Black dust fell like snowflakes. It landed on my jacket and smelled like burnt hair and engine oil. Backed away slowly, watching the vent. But nothing emerged. No movement. Just that faint breath. And one final whisper. Manifest complete. You may go. I ran. Didn't look back. Didn't stop until I hit I-64 and caught the early morning light through the windshield. I don't take hauls through that part of West Virginia anymore. But I still hear from other drivers. On occasion. Someone will mention strange CB loops, coordinates, timestamps, strange voices calling out mile markers that haven't existed for decades. One guy swore he saw a figure standing inside a tunnel that wasn't there the week before. Another said he woke up in his cab parked along a logging road with coal dust on his boots and no memory of how he got there. I've tried to move on. Tried to forget that voice, those coordinates, that tunnel that was never supposed to exist. But sometimes, when I drive late at night through unfamiliar stretches, no signal, no lights, my CB will crackle to life. And just for a second, I'll hear it again. Last load, last light, last breath. I've been a long-haul trucker for going on 15 years now. Seen just about everything you can out on the road. Flipped rigs, deer through windshields, entire stretches of mountain roads swallowed up in fog thick as cement. You drive long. Enough, especially in the dead hours, and you learn to keep your head on straight. Don't fall for shadows, don't chase noises. Don't believe everything you see. But what happened to me in the woods outside Bald Eagle State Forest, Pennsylvania? It wasn't the road playing tricks on me. Something was watching. And it learned fast. It started on a Tuesday evening this past October. I'd left Scranton that afternoon hauling dry goods, paper products, and office supplies, headed west toward Pittsburgh. Dispatch had me on a detour because of some wreck along I-80, so I was routed through the back end of Center County, a winding stretch of 2-lane highway that skirts the edge of Bald Eagle State Forest. I'd taken that route a handful of times before, always during the day. It's beautiful country in the daylight. Golden maples, thick pine groves, roadside produce stands manned by folks who still trust a cash jar. But at night, it's just you. Trees and blacktop. No cell signal. No gas stations open after 6. No one coming if you break down. I'd been driving about an hour past Milheim when I noticed something strange in my mirrors. At first, I thought it was just my own lights reflecting weird off the trailer doors. Happens sometimes when there's mist in the air. But the pattern didn't line up. These weren't flashes or flares. They were pulses. Faint red glows, slow and even, maybe every 3 seconds. They were low. Too low for taillights and too rhythmic for hazard blinkers. Not bouncing like another vehicle behind me. No reflection from overhead lights or road signs, just that soft red throb like an old heartbeat. I tapped the brakes to see if someone was tailgating without headlights. Nothing changed. No headlights behind me. No car. Just darkness. And those damn pulsing lights. I pulled off at the first gravel turnout I could find, one of those little service ramps that cuts off into the woods for logging or maintenance vehicles. Shut the engine off and stepped out with my flashlight. Cicadas buzzed in the trees. It was colder than I expected, the kind of cold that makes your breath come out in clouds and your fingertips go stiff quick. I circled the trailer slow, shining the light across the axles, the landing gear, the tape on the back. Nothing. No damage. No source of light. No other vehicle on the road in either direction. Just the hiss of cooling brakes and the crack of branches somewhere in the dark. I remember standing at the rear of the trailer, squinting into the trees and feeling watched. Not paranoid. Not creeped out. Observed. Like something was studying me. Learning my shape. I shook it off, climbed back in the cab and kept going. Maybe 10 minutes later, I glanced in the mirror again. And there they were. Faint, red pulses. Same rhythm. Same spot. Just below the doors. Except this time, they were closer. I told myself it was a reflection, a malfunction, a busted diode in one of my clearance lights sending stray beams onto the reflective tape. But when I checked again, it was gone. Like it knew I was watching. That's when things got really weird. Every time I looked straight ahead, I'd catch it just barely in the corner of my vision. A blink, a glow, sometimes two. But the second I turned my head, it vanished. The pattern didn't make sense, unless it was reacting. I made it to a way station outside Moshannon around 11:45 p.m., pulled in to check my logs and grab a coffee from the vending machine. There was one other driver parked on the far end, hood up, smoking a cigarette. I asked him, just in passing, "You see anyone behind me? Maybe a service truck or local rig running dark?" He gave me a weird look. "You've been solo on this stretch since Milesburg. I've been sitting here 20 minutes. Nothing behind you but trees, man." I nodded, played it off. But as I walked back to my rig, I saw it again. A red blink. This time, from underneath the trailer. Just one quick pulse. Like someone clicking. A red LED pin, then dark. I dropped to a knee fast, flashlight out, scanned the undercarriage. No one. No wires. No beacons. No tracking tags. But the pavement beneath my trailer, it was wet. A small patch. Circular. Right below where that pulse had been. And it smelled metallic. Like rusted iron and engine oil. I tried to sleep in the sleeper that night, parked alongside a few other rigs. Didn't last. Kept waking up to phantom glows on the curtain seams. At one point I swore I heard a low hum, almost like electronics. But when I checked the inverter and cabin systems, everything was off. Just silence. And that cold again. That same dry chill from the woods earlier. The next day I finished the route, delivered to a warehouse in Pittsburgh, no problem. But when I pulled around back to unhitch, the dockhand flagged me down. "Hey man," he said, looking under the rear axle. "You leaking fluid or something? There's something under here." I walked around. And froze. Right there beneath the trailer, on the lower strut bar. Someone had etched a word in the grime. Learning, not spray paint. Not marker. Just finger written in thick road grime, like someone had been writing underneath. No prints. No scuffs. Just that single word and a faint smear, like blood mixed with dirt. I didn't take another load for 3 days. Called out sick. Didn't sleep well. Every time I closed my eyes, I'd see that pulsing light. Slow, steady, getting closer. It wasn't just watching anymore. It was practicing. On Saturday, I got a call from a buddy of mine, Travis, another long hauler who ran a similar route through central PA. I hadn't told him anything yet, but he called out of the blue and said, "Dude, Weird question. You ever seen red lights behind your trailer that disappear when you look? My stomach dropped. He said it started 2 nights prior, coming through Lock Haven. Same exact thing. Low pulses in the mirror, always just far enough away to question. Always gone when he tried to see directly. I asked him if it ever got closer. He went quiet for a second. Then said, "Yeah. Last night I was parked at a rest stop. Heard something tap my passenger mirror 3 times. When I turned to look, nothing there. But my mirror had a red smear on it, like a fingerprint. Just one. I don't know what this thing is. But it's not random. It picks trucks. It studies patterns. It learns how not to be seen. And when it figures it out, it moves closer. Last night, I parked my rig in the lot behind my apartment complex, something I rarely do. And at 2:13 a.m., I woke up in the cab. Not because of a noise. Not because of a dream. Because my mirrors were glowing red. Pulsing. In sync. Left, right, left. And the worst part? I wasn't alone in the sleeper. Something was breathing. Right behind the curtain. Soft, steady, learning. I didn't open the curtain. Couldn't. I sat frozen in the driver's seat, hands clenched on the wheel, staring at the dim red glow pulsing in both side mirrors. Left, right, left. Like a heartbeat, like it was waiting. The breathing behind the curtain was quiet, not heavy or wheezing, just soft even, almost human. Almost. I don't know how long I sat there. Long enough for the condensation to start creeping across the inside of the windshield. Long enough for the breath behind me to shift slightly. Like whoever, whatever it was had just adjusted its weight. Like it was getting comfortable. I don't know what finally snapped me out of it, but I jumped out of the cab barefoot, slammed the door behind me, and stumbled into the cold night air. My front porch light was still on, casting a pale yellow glow over the edge of the lot. The truck sat silent. The mirrors were clear. No red glow, no pulsing light. The cabin interior was dark. I circled around with a flashlight and a tire iron, heart slamming in my chest, legs shaking. When I finally worked up the nerve to open the sleeper from the outside access door, it was empty. No signs of anyone. Except the mattress cover was wet. And in the condensation on the small back window, someone had dragged 2 fingers slowly downward. Twin lines, side by side, like eyes watching. I didn't sleep that night. Didn't go inside. I sat in a lawn chair with a thermos of coffee and waited until morning. When the sun finally rose and burned away the chill, I climbed into the truck and drove straight to Travis's place. Told him everything. He didn't laugh. He just nodded. And then he showed me the back of his side mirror, the one that had been tapped 3 nights earlier. It wasn't a fingerprint. It was a handprint. Small, long fingers, but not quite right. The proportions were off, almost like the fingers had too many joints. And in the very center of the palm, a faint circle. Not a symbol, a reflection. Like whoever touched it was trying to show him something. We made a plan. Travis. And I decided to drive separate rigs through the same route I took that night through Bald Eagle. Exact stretch, same time, same speed. 2 trucks, 2 drivers staying in radio contact the whole way. If this thing was learning, maybe we could catch it watching. Or maybe we could catch it before it learned how to hide again. We left, just after 10 p.m. The weather was clear. No, moon. I led the way. Travis stayed back about a quarter mile. The road was empty. Not another rig. Not a single set of headlights behind us. At 10:48 p.m. I saw it. Red pulse. Left mirror. Then right. Faint. Like before, I keyed the CB. You see? That? I asked. Yeah. Travis answered. Left mirror. Just started. Real low. It was back. Watching us both. But this time, it didn't blink away when I looked straight on. It kept pulsing. Steady, dot. Calm, dot. Like it wanted us to see it now, dot. About 2 miles later, Travis came back on the radio. Dude, I think it's under me. I slowed. What do you mean? I can feel it. Suspension's flexing. Something's on my axle. I pulled over fast, jumped out with the flashlight. Travis did the same. We met at his trailer. The pavement beneath it was cold, dry, no wind, and quiet, dot, until we both heard it, dot, from underneath his rig, dot, breathing, dot, but not labored or tired, dot, excited, dot, hungry, dot. Travis dropped to a knee, leaned under the rear bumper with his flashlight. I held my breath. Jesus, he whispered. I crouched down. Beside him, dot, their comma clinging to the undercarriage and stretched long and thin between 2 crossbars, was a figure, dot, not a person, dot, something shaped like one, dot, skin the color of wet concrete, dot, limbs too long. Knees bent the wrong way, dot, face flat against the bottom of the trailer, eyes wide open, but not normal eyes, just smooth glass, like mirrors, curved and gleaming red from our taillights, dot, and it was smiling, dot, lips pulled tight, dot, no teeth, dot, just blackness. Inside, dot, it let go, dot, slid backward into the darkness under the truck like a shadow getting sucked into a crack, dot. We scrambled back, hearts pounding, dot. But there was no sound, no scurrying, no thump, dot. It was just gone, dot. The flashlight beam caught only road and gravel, dot. We got back in our trucks, drove straight to the next rest area, and didn't speak for a while, dot. Eventually, Travis said, "It didn't try to hurt us." I nodded, but it wanted us to see. He looked at me. No, it wanted to see how we reacted. The thing is, I haven't seen the light since, dot. Neither has Travis, dot. No more pulses in the mirrors, dot. No breathing behind the curtain, dot. But that's what scares me the most, dot. Not that it's gone, dot, but that it learned what it needed, dot. It practiced, dot. Studied, dot. Copied what it saw, dot. And now it knows how to hide better, dot. Now it knows when not to be seen, dot. And I think it's riding in someone else's trailer now, dot. Watching them sleep, dot, waiting, dot, learning. I've broken down plenty of times before, but never like that night near Echo Creek. A little scratch of land most folks in northern West Virginia have never heard of unless they live there, or got lost trying to avoid Route 33 construction. Detours. I'd been pushing my luck too far already, running solo hauls through the mountains after dark, trying to get this load of spools and wire mesh to a site south of Elkins before morning. That stretch of Route 219 has always been a little cursed. Not bad necessarily, just off, dot. That night, the fog rolled in hard. I was about 10 miles north of Slatty Fork when my rig let out a sputtering groan and lost all power like someone had yanked the plug. No warning lights, no hiccup, just a hard cold stop. Dashboard dead, engine quiet. I rolled to the shoulder. Hazards dead too. My phone? No bars, no GPS. Just a screen stuck searching for signal that wasn't coming. I sat there for a solid 15 minutes hoping something would reboot. A flicker of battery, a burst of signal, a sign I wasn't about to spend the night stranded in the cold mist. But nothing came. Only the silence. That's when I saw it dot out across a low ridge to the west. Through the trees I spotted a faint flicker of yellow light. Porch light, I figured. Maybe a trailer or an old hunting cabin. Just a pinprick, but steady, and most importantly, human. I grabbed my flashlight, a light jacket, and a tire iron, because you never know, and locked the cab behind me, dot. It was colder than I expected. The kind of early spring chill that clings to the hollows, the kind that makes your breath visible and the forest feel older than it should. I hiked through wet brush and loose gravel for maybe 10 minutes, feet crunching softly, not another sound around me except for the occasional drip of melted fog water from the pines, dot. The light got brighter. A small trailer came into view, tucked just off a winding gravel path that didn't connect to any visible road. It looked old but lived in. Plastic patio chairs, overgrown grass, a half-rusted swing set leaning to one side. The porch light flickered slightly, casting strange, uneven shadows. The front door, hanging open, I called out. Hello? Hey. Sorry to bother you. Broke down out by the road. Anyone home? No answer. I stepped up onto the porch. The wood groaned under my boots. I knocked once, then twice. Still nothing. I pushed the door slowly. It creaked open the rest of the way. The first thing I noticed was the smell. Not rot, not mold. Just food. Warm food. Something like beef stew or pot roast, rich, peppery. There was a small table inside with 2 chairs and a steaming plate still, sitting out. Steam. Still. Next to it, a glass of sweet tea with condensation sliding slowly down the side. Whoever had been here hadn't been gone long. I stepped inside. The lights were on, soft yellow overhead. Everything was normal. Old family photos on the walls, dusty VHS tapes stacked by the TV, a folded quilt on the recliner, one of those ceramic cat clocks with the eyes that tick side to side. But no people. I called out again, louder. Nothing. No movement in the back rooms. No shuffle. No reply. Just absence. That's when I saw the wall. Near the hallway that led toward the bedrooms, right where the hallway turns out of sight. Words. Greasy, dark fingerprint smears, like someone had dipped their hands in motor oil or meat drippings and scrawled something in a rush. We told the last driver too late. I stared at it, frozen. The words weren't written in straight lines, more like someone had pressed their fingers over and over again in short strokes, frantic, like they'd run out of time halfway through. Therein, driver was smudged, like a hand had been dragged across it mid-letter. My throat tightened. I backed out slowly toward the front door. That's when I noticed the other plate. There was another dinner set, empty, but not untouched. Fork on the plate. Napkin, used. Chair slightly pushed back. Someone had been here. Recently. I looked again at the drink with condensation, then at the plate of stew still steaming. Too recent. Way too recent. I stepped back onto the porch, heart thumping, breathing tight, ears straining for any sound. Nothing but the creak of that swing, set rocking in the soft wind. Then from somewhere, deep in the woods behind the trailer. Snap. A twig. Heavy. Too deliberate for deer. I turned quickly, flashlight swinging. Another snap. Closer this time. And low. Too low. Then stillness. And then a sound I didn't expect. A voice. From behind the trees, maybe 15 yards off. Calm. Measured. Driver? I froze. Didn't answer. The voice came again, softer this time. You're early. It's not time yet. I couldn't see a face, just black between the trees, no shadow. No silhouette. But the words. They weren't threatening. They were confused. Like I wasn't the one it expected. I started backing toward the path I came from, slow and careful, eyes locked on the spot where I thought the voice had come from. Then, a second voice, from the opposite side. You didn't wait for the knock. It was lower, drier. It came from the other side of the trailer. I spun, light scanning, but there was no one there. Still no footsteps, no branches moving, just fog curling up the sides of the woods. That's when the porch light blinked. Not flickered. Blinked. Like a warning. Then a shape moved under the trailer, fast, scraping along the dirt like something crawling. I didn't wait. I ran. I tore through. The brush back toward the road, lungs burning, breath coming in gasps. Branches slapped my face. My flashlight beam bounced wildly. Behind me. I heard footsteps, not running, not chasing, but following. Deliberate. Calm. As if it had all the time in the world. When I reached the truck, I jumped into the cab, locked the door, and prayed. The engine would turn over even though everything had gone dark earlier. To my shock, and the dashboard lit up. Dot power restored. Dot battery. Full dot. Everything was fine dot. Like it had never failed at all. I flipped the ignition dot. The engine roared to life. Dot headlights. On dot hazards working dot signal back dot. My phone lit up like nothing had happened. 3 bars. LT dot no warning lights on the dash. I floored it. Didn't look back. Didn't stop until I hit the state route again. Speeding through mist so thick, it looked like the road was fading into smoke dot. That should have been the end of it dot. But it wasn't. Because this morning, I opened my glove box to grab my logbook and found a paper napkin tucked inside dot folded neatly. Dot same cheap floral print as the ones on that dinner table dot. When I unfolded it, written in faint oily fingerprints, was one word. Soon. I didn't go back right away dot. After that night, I called in every favor I had and rerouted all my deliveries to stay the hell out of that corner of West Virginia. For almost 2 months, I avoided Route 219 completely. I didn't even like looking at it on a map dot, but the napkin wouldn't let me go. I kept it, tucked in the glove box, thinking maybe I'd hallucinated it. Maybe it'd disappear like a bad dream. But it stayed, still folded, still smelling, faintly of beef broth and lemon-scented dish soap, still smeared with that greasy word, soon. And then one night, I got a call from a dispatcher in Charleston. He was covering for my usual guy, said they were short on drivers, and had a hot route down into Lewisburg that needed to run that same night. Double rate, easy load. I told him no at first dot, but when he read off the route number, Route 219, I froze dot. Then comma before I could stop myself, I said, yeah, I'll take it. I don't know why I agreed. Dot, it felt like gravity, like something pulling. Me backed it like I didn't have a real choice. I left around 9:30 that night, hauling a light load of landscaping stone, just over 5,000 pounds. Not enough to slow me down. Dot, the farther south I went, the quieter it got. Fewer houses, fewer lights. The last gas station I passed before the woods was already shuttered for the night. After that, it was just me, the trees, and the fog curling over the road like smoke off a dying fire dot. And then I saw it dot. The same turnout, same spot where my rig had died before dot, and beyond the trees. That same flickering porch light dot. Still there dot, still waiting dot. But this time, I didn't stop. I kept driving dot. Watched it disappear in my side mirror, swallowed again by pine and shadow dot about. 10 minutes later, I pulled into a rest area just north of Droop Mountain. I parked, turned off the engine, and sat in the silence for a long while. That's when I heard it dot knock dot 3 times dot, but not from the door dot, not from the trailer dot, from underneath. I jumped out of the cab, flashlight in hand, heart pounding. I dropped. To one knee, slowly scanned under the truck dot, nothing dot, just gravel. Damp dirt, a crushed styrofoam cup dot. And then I saw it dot right on the rear axle, written in thick grime. You waited. And next to it, another set of fingerprints dot, greasy, black, dragged down the metal like something had been crawling out from beneath. I backed away, hand shaking, and climbed into the cab dot. The clock read 2:16 a.m. I put the truck in gear and got back on the road, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone dot. My mirrors kept fogging at the edges, even though the cab was warm. I turned, the heat off dot, still fogging dot. And every few miles I'd hear the faintest tapping from behind the sleeper curtain. Not loud, not constant. Just a soft, steady rhythm, like someone keeping time dot, like they were waiting for something dot. When I finally reached my drop point, a contractor's yard just outside Lewisburg, I stepped out into the early dawn light and felt a weird calm settle over me dot, like I'd made it dot, survived whatever it was dot. But when I went to unlock the back of the trailer, I noticed something stuck in the gap between the door and the latch dot. It was a photograph dot, old dot, faded dot. The kind of color tone you only get from cheap drugstore prints in the 90s dot. It showed a man standing by a truck. Not mine, but something older. He was smiling, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a faded Wilson hauling jacket dot, behind him clear as day. Was that same trailer from the woods. Same porch. Same flickering light. Scrawled on the back of the photo in handwriting that shook my bones. We told him too late, too. I didn't sleep for days. Every time I shut my eyes, I'd dream of knocking, endless knocking, and red handprints forming on the inside of my windows. I started keeping the truck lights on 24/7. Started checking under the trailer every time I stopped. Eventually, I went back to that area one more time. Daylight this time. I drove down the gravel service path where I thought the trailer had been. But it wasn't there. No trailer. No swing set. No porch. Just a patch of dry dirt, flat and empty, like nothing, had stood there for years. Except when I got out and walked the tree line, I found a mailbox. Bent. Rusty. Still, bolted to a leaning post. And carved faintly into the metal beneath layers of peeling paint were 3 words scratched deep. Still. Watching, driver? That was 2 months ago. I'm not saying I believe in ghosts or whatever this was. But here's the part that haunts me. A couple weeks back, a buddy of mine, Alan, another OTR driver, called me up. He broke down just outside Echo Creek. Lost. All power. No cell service. He said he saw a light through the trees. Thought it might be a trailer. I didn't say a word. Just sat there on the phone in silence. And he said, yeah, I went to check it out. But I stopped short when I got close. The porch light started blinking 3 times. Then he asked me, what do you think that means? I didn't have the heart to tell him. I just said, Alan, don't answer the knock. But between us, I think once you've seen it, once it chooses you, it never really leaves. And sooner or later, you always hear the knock. If you've ever driven Route 11 through Southwest Virginia, right near the Tennessee line, you know how empty it can get. There are long stretches with no gas stations, no diners, no cell service, just that slow roll of 2-lane highway winding through farmland and pine woods. It's the kind of road where your tires start humming a little too loud, and the rhythm of passing fence posts starts to lull your brain into autopilot. I've run that route maybe 24 times over the years, mostly hauling HVAC supplies from Roanoke down toward Knoxville. Easy miles, decent pay, not much traffic after dark. I've never had a problem with that road until last spring. That night started off normal. Just past 9 p.m., I left Withville with a half-full trailer and a fresh cup of gas station coffee, set my course for a drop yard just outside Kingsport. The weather was clear, engine was purring. I figured I'd be parked and asleep by midnight. Didn't happen. And the reason why still keeps me up sometimes. Noticed something was wrong around the time I passed mile marker 172. It stood just off the right shoulder, mossy and faded, but clear as day. I remember because the post had a chunk missing from one corner, like something big had taken a bite out of the concrete. I even made a mental note, need to let dispatch know about that. Could be a hazard. 10 minutes later, I passed mile marker 171. Makes sense, right? Numbers count down as you head southbound. Except, another few minutes after that, I passed 172 again. Same chunk missing. Same weird little vine curling around the base. At first, I figured I'd missed a turn somehow, maybe looped off the main road and doubled back. I pulled over at a gravel pull-off to check my GPS. And that's when I noticed the second problem. I wasn't just backtracking. According to the GPS, I was 18 miles south of where I'd started. Not north. Not. At the same spot. South. And I hadn't made a single turn. I killed the engine and sat there for a bit trying to get my bearings. My head felt foggy, like I'd missed something obvious. The kind of brain static you get from driving too long without a break. I decided to stretch my legs and reset. The gravel lot I'd pulled into was one of those random maintenance pads. No buildings, no lights, just a patch of dirt off the road with a collapsed wooden fence and a bent road sign that read, "Emergency use only." I got out, cracked my back and breathed in that cold spring air. Smelled like pine and damp soil, like it had just rained somewhere nearby. That's when I noticed something strange. No cars. For the past hour of driving, I hadn't seen a single vehicle. No taillights, no headlights in the rear view, no oncoming traffic. Route 11 might not be I-81, but it's not dead. I checked my phone. Zero signal. Tried the CB, static. Even the radio wouldn't pick up a station. And then I heard the footsteps. Light. Crunching across the gravel behind the trailer. I turned fast, flashlight in hand, expecting to see a V. Worker or maybe another driver who'd pulled in quietly. No one. Just the woods behind the lot, thick with shadow and that heavy silence that only comes right before a storm or something worse. I scanned the area. Nothing. But as I was about to head back into the cab, I spotted something at the base of the broken fence, a mile marker. Not planted. Leaning. Like it had been torn from the ground and dropped there. It read, Mile 174. Which made no damn sense. I'd already passed 172, twice. And this one was different. Older. Cracked and weather-stained like it had been buried and dug up. There were scratches across the numbers like claw marks or maybe someone trying to erase them. I backed away, climbed, into the cab, and restarted the truck. That's when I saw the odometer. The trip counter had reset itself. Not just to 0, it now read -0007. 2. Negative mileage. I hit the road again, a little faster this time. And for a while it felt like I was getting somewhere. Until the signs started showing up again. Mile 172. Then 171. Then 172. Again. That damn post with the missing chunk just kept coming back. It was like I was stuck in it was loop. But my clock kept ticking forward. Each pass through 172 took longer. Each curve felt a little different, just enough to confuse me. Like the road had stretched slightly or tilted in a way I couldn't explain. And the air was getting colder. Not cooler. Colder. Like winter had crept in behind me. My windshield, fogged. The mirrors, frosted. The sky was still black, but it didn't feel like night anymore. It felt like void. Around what had to be the 5th loop through that same stretch, I noticed something new. A truck. Just up ahead on the shoulder, lights off, no driver in sight. Looked like a Peterbilt, maybe mid-2000s, red cab with a white trailer. I pulled up beside it and slowed down. No plates. No markings. Just dust. Layers of it. And a set of muddy bare footprints leading from the driver's side door across the road into the woods. I stopped. Rolled down the window. Called out, "You all right?" No answer. Just whined. And then, just as I was about to move on, the truck's headlights blinked on. Once. Then off. I hit the gas. Didn't look back. Didn't slow down. I just drove. Faster than I should have on those curves. I kept my eyes locked dead ahead, refusing to check the mirrors, refusing to see another 172. But eventually, I did. Mile marker 172 again. But this time something was different. Someone was standing next to it. Not moving. Tall figure, hands at figure, their sides facing away from the road. Could have been a man, could have been anything. I didn't stop. But my headlights passed over them just long enough to see something written across the back of their jacket. You never left. That's when I lost it. I pulled a hard left onto a dirt access road just past the marker, tires spitting gravel, praying it would lead me somewhere, anywhere else. I drove maybe half a mile into the woods, the road narrowing, the branches clawing at the sides of my trailer like fingers. Then I saw it. A clearing. An old house, white sagging porch, shuttered windows, no lights. I stopped. Shut the truck off. The forest was dead silent. I climbed out, not sure what I was even looking for. And that's when I heard it. Knocking. 3 slow knocks. From inside the trailer. The knocking didn't stop. 3 slow, deliberate thuds. Thump, thump, thump. From inside the trailer I'd been hauling the entire time. It didn't make sense. I hadn't picked up a person. Just wire mesh and boxed. HVAC coils all sealed and strapped down. I'd locked it myself back in Withville. I stood in that clearing surrounded by black trees and dead air, trying to convince myself that maybe something had shifted in transit. Maybe the coils fell over. Maybe a pallet slid. Anything to keep me from accepting the truth simmering in my gut. Something was in the trailer now, and it had waited until I was alone, parked beside an abandoned house in a patch of forest that didn't exist on any map. I pulled the latch on the rear door slowly, trying not to make a sound. The metal creaked like a scream in the cold. I raised the roll-up door a few inches, half expecting something to come barreling out. Nothing. Just the metallic scent of rust and chilled air rolling out. I lifted it the rest of the way, flashlight shaking slightly in my hand. The load was exactly where I'd strapped it. Boxes neat. Pallets untouched. Except for one thing, a footprint. Right in the middle of the floor. Small. Bare. Pointed away from me. And wet. The concrete surface glistened faintly under the beam of my light, like something had just stepped out of a creek. I climbed in, one slow step at a time. The air was wrong inside. Not just cold. It felt dense, like the pressure had dropped suddenly. My ears popped. The smell shifted, faintly sweet like decay mixed with burnt wood. Another footprint led toward the left wall. Then another. And then nothing. Just clean trailer floor. Like whoever, whatever it was, had stopped walking. I turned slowly, sweeping, the flashlight. And there it was. At the far end of the trailer. Pressed into the metal wall. A handprint. Greasy, smudged, fingers too long. And scratched into the metal beneath it, barely visible through the grime. Turn around. I didn't. Not at first. I stood frozen, flashlight still locked on the handprint, heart thudding so hard I could feel it in my fingertips. And then I heard it again. Right behind me. Breathing. Not raspy or panicked. Controlled. Calm. Measured. Like someone standing inches from my back. I spun. The flashlight cut through empty space. No one there. But something brushed past me as I turned. A whisper of air. A shift in pressure. And then silence. I climbed out fast, slammed the trailer door shut, and locked it twice over. When I turned around, the house in the clearing was lit up. Every window glowing yellow, a porch light flickering like the one from Route 11. And standing in the open front doorway was me. Same jacket. Same boots. But the face ? Wrong. It didn't move like a face should. It twitched into shape, eyes and mouth catching up a second too late, like it was figuring out how to wear the features. It raised a hand slowly and waved. Not friendly. Mocking. And behind it, inside the house, were rows of other drivers. All standing still. All facing the same way. All wearing my face. I ran. Didn't get in the truck. Didn't even look back. I ran through the woods, crashing through underbrush, branches ripping at my arms, until I broke through onto pavement. A mile marker stood crooked at the edge of the road. Mile 170. I'd finally passed it. Finally moved forward. My truck was parked on the shoulder like it had always been there. Engine idling. Cab empty. Lights on. I climbed in. I climbed. Slammed the door and threw it in gear. The rest of the drive was a blur. No more loops. No more mile marker. Deja vu. Just the road, and the nagging pressure that something had changed. When I made it to the drop yard in Kingsport, the manager looked confused. Didn't think you'd show, he said. What do you mean? I asked. You already dropped this load off, earlier this morning. I stared at him. What? He motioned toward the empty trailer bay. Said you came in quiet, didn't say much, dropped the paperwork, then left. I pulled out my clipboard, showed him the signed bill of lading. Different, signature. Same name. I haven't driven that route since. I requested a permanent reassignment to Georgia runs. Mostly stay on big interstates now. Keep it loud. Keep it lit. But sometimes, if I'm tired, or if the fog rolls in just right, I'll catch a glimpse of a mile marker in the corner of my eye. Just a flash. And I swear, it's always 172. And my odometer still does that thing. Every few hundred miles. Negative readings. Like the truck remembers. Like part of me never got back. I've been driving long haul since I was 22. Diesel in the veins, like they say. There's something about the hum of tires on asphalt, the glow of dash lights in the dark, the promise of a different skyline every morning. Some drivers hate the isolation, but for me it's half the appeal. Just me, the road, and whatever's playing on the CB to keep me company. But every now and then something breaks that rhythm. Something that doesn't belong out there. And Route 33, heading east out of Elkins, West Virginia, toward the Virginia state line, has one of those stretches. Any trucker who's driven that way at night knows there's a part of it, somewhere around the Shenandoah border, where things get off. Not in a dramatic way, just wrong in the gut, like the air's heavier, like you're being watched from the tree line, even when you're doing 60. What happened to me last October is the kind of thing I wouldn't have believed either, if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes. I was running a late-night freight from Charleston to Harrisonburg, Virginia, just a short haul, about 4 hours. It was cold, drizzly, and quiet. That kind of fall night where the fog rolls low over the pavement and everything outside your headlights looks like it's breathing. I was maybe 20 miles past Seneca Rocks, no other vehicles in sight, when my CB burst to life. Just static. Loud. Jarring. Like someone cranked the volume to max. I reached for the dial to turn it down, but it was already low. Still blasting. Then comma underneath the static, I heard it. Not a voice. Not words. Just a faint scratching sound. Metal on glass. Slow at first. Then faster. Then it would stop for a second. Then start again. It made my skin crawl in a way I can't explain. It didn't sound random. It sounded deliberate. Like someone or something was trying to get in. I pulled off at the next rest stop. Just a small one. 2 vending machines, a pair of lights flickering in the lot, and a bathroom that looked like it hadn't been cleaned since the Carter administration. Not a soul around. I parked under one of the lights, shut off the engine, and took a deep breath. The CB went quiet the moment the truck powered down. Dead silence. Not even static. Weirdest part? My CB unit didn't light back up when I flipped the switch. Dead screen. No hum. Nothing. That's when I noticed something else. The scratches. Dozens of them. All across the inside of the windshield. Thin. Jagged. Some short. Some long. Curling into each other like vines. I ran my finger over them. Sharp. Fresh. I leaned in closer and noticed something that turned my stomach. They were carved from the inside. Not a single mark on the exterior. All etched from the driver's seat side of the glass. And worse, some of them overlapped the defrost lines. Like whatever did it didn't care about resistance. It had just kept scratching. I got out of the cab, checked all my locks. Everything was sealed. Doors secured. Passenger side locked tight. I even opened the back just to be sure. Nothing moved. Load was fine. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something had been inside with me. Not like a rat or a bug. Something else. I took a walk around the rest stop trying to clear my head. That's when I saw the vending machine. Both were dead. No lights. But one of them had something taped to the glass. A folded piece of paper half soaked with condensation. I peeled it off and opened it. It was a map. Hand-drawn. Faded pencil on notebook paper. Looked like someone traced a portion of Route 33 with shaky hands. A few notes scribbled in the margins. It watches when you stop. Don't leave the engine off too long. If you see the fog split, don't look at it. Scratches equal sign a warning. No signature. No explanation. Just that. I got back in the truck, started the engine, and tried to shake it off. Told myself it was some weirdo's prank. Some bored teenager with too much free time and access to a key. The scratches were real. I wasn't denying that. But the why? That's what I tried to reason through. Maybe condensation froze and made those marks somehow. Maybe my CB unit fried and fed back into the speaker. But that still didn't explain the scratching sound. Or how it mimicked what I later found on the glass. I got back on the road, driving slower. Now fog had thickened. My high beams only lit about 20 feet ahead, and even that was patchy. Somewhere past the state line, my passenger side mirror started to vibrate. Not rattle. Not shake. Vibrate. Like it was humming, even though there was no wind and the road was dead calm. Then the fog ahead parted. Just for a moment. Not like it thinned naturally. More like it was being peeled open. Two wisps dragging outward in perfect synchronization, revealing a stretch of road that looked too smooth, too clean, like someone had wiped a finger through condensation on a mirror. And standing dead center in the middle of that cleared space was a figure. I couldn't see its face, just an outline. Tall, too thin, shoulders hunched, head cocked slightly to the side like it was listening. I hit the brakes, hard. Slammed them harder than I should have. The whole rig groaned, tires shrieking. When I looked back up, the figure was gone. Fog closed again. Like it had never opened. I pulled to the side, heart pounding, trying not to lose it. I looked over at the passenger side window. And there it was. A scratch. Not a crack. Not dirt. A fresh scratch, arcing across the inside of the glass. Thin, deliberate. And following the curve were smaller lines. 4 of them. Like fingertips. That's when the CB came alive again. Not static this time. Not a voice. Either. Just a soft breath. Then a whisper. Stop. Again. I should have turned around. I should have thrown that map out the window, radioed in sick, and driven back toward Charleston with the pedal floored and my eyes glued to the yellow line. But instead, I sat there on the shoulder of Route 33, fog thick as milk, staring at a faint scratch on the inside of my passenger window, one that hadn't been there an hour ago. The CB was quiet again, dead air, but I swear the mic still hissed, faintly like it wanted to speak. Stop. Again. That whisper. It hadn't come from the speaker. It had come from inside the cab. That's the part that had my stomach in knots. Like someone had leaned close to my ear while I was gripping the wheel and said it just loud enough to make my skin crawl. And that scratch, those 4 thin parallel lines right above the arc. Fingernail trails. From the inside. Again. I didn't move for a full 5 minutes. Just listened. Watched the mirrors. Tried not to breathe too loudly. The fog was pressing in so thick I couldn't even make out the yellow stripes anymore, only the vague ghost glow of my headlights bouncing off the vapor. Then I noticed something strange in the side mirror. A light. Faint. Flickering. Like a dying flashlight. It was too low to be headlights. And it wasn't behind me. It was by the rear trailer door. I craned my neck to see. That's when the CB let out a loud burst of feedback like a scream made of static, and then snapped off again. Silence. I grabbed the tire iron I keep by the seat and climbed out of the truck. I didn't want to, but sitting there pretending none of it was happening wasn't doing me any favors either. The air outside smelled metallic. Not just earthy like fog usually does. This had an edge to it, like wet copper wire. I rounded the trailer. Nothing. No light, no sound. Just the faint groan of the wind pushing through trees I couldn't see. But then I saw it. On the rear trailer door. Another scratch. This one, deeper. Wider. Like someone had dragged a piece of rebar across the metal. It shimmered faintly in the red of my taillights, and just above it, something else. A handprint. Pressed into the grime. Long fingers. Two long palm facing inward like whatever it was had been inside again, and pushed out. I climbed back into the cab, started the engine, and took off. Didn't care about the load. Didn't care if I busted an axle hitting a pothole in the dark. I just needed off this road. But the thing was, it didn't end. Route 33 felt like it had stretched out behind me, looping like a bad dream. Every turn looked the same. Every pine tree swaying on the shoulder felt like the last one. I'd passed the same bent reflector post 3 times. Or maybe I never passed it at all. And every few miles, just barely visible in the mirror. A flicker. Twitch in the fog. Sometimes a shape. Never enough to make out. But always watching. Eventually, I reached another rest stop. Not the same one. This one looked older, overgrown. The vending machines had vines curling through the coin slots, and the bench was rotted clean through. But there was a car in the lot. Empty. Doors locked. A duffel bag in the passenger seat. Fast food wrappers on the floor. An air freshener shaped like a pine tree hanging from the mirror, faded down to gray. And on the inside of the windshield, same as me, scratches. Hundreds of them. Long ones. Short ones. Some that overlapped in loops, like someone had started to write letters but gave up. I backed away and got back in my truck. Started flipping through the radio bands. Anything, music, weather, static, just some kind of human voice. Finally, on AM 630, I caught something. Man's voice breaking up through the noise. They can't follow you past the bridge. If the fog is split, don't stop, just drive, just keep driving, don't stop, don't look back, don't let it in. Then silence. I scanned the dial again. Nothing. Half an hour later, I hit a covered bridge just before Harrisonburg. It came out of nowhere. Stone pillars, old wooden beams, barely wide enough for my rig. And something about it felt solid. Like a gate. The fog didn't cross it. Didn't even try. I floored it through. Made it out the other side in one piece. And as I looked back in the mirror, I saw the fog roll up to the entrance and stop. Like it had been tethered to the forest. And there, standing in the swirling mist just before the bridge, was the same figure I saw earlier. Not moving. Not chasing. Just watching. And it raised a hand, not waving. Just pressing a palm against the fog wall. When I got to the drop yard, the manager asked why I was late. I told him the fog had slowed me down. He nodded. Said I was lucky. Another driver had been assigned the same route 2 nights ago. He never showed. Police found his truck at an abandoned rest stop west of Seneca Rocks. Doors locked. Engine running. No sign of him. Only thing left. Question mark scratches. All over. The windshield. From the inside. I don't take Route 33 anymore. I don't drive at night if I can help it. But sometimes when I'm parked at a truck stop, dead of night, CB silent, I'll catch a whisper in the static. Just a trace of that breath. And the faintest sound of scratching. I've been hauling freight up and down Appalachia for 27 years, and I've seen just about everything this side of weird, from glowing eyes in the trees to strange folk flagging down trucks miles from any town. But what I saw that night near Tug Fork still makes me grip the wheel a little tighter whenever I take a forgotten bypass. It was late October, right before Halloween, but up in the mountains the trees were already bare and the wind cut like early winter. I was heading east out of Williamson, West Virginia, taking a long detour through old coal routes to avoid a rock slide on the main highway. Dispatch cleared me for it. The bypass was old, but technically still drivable, just not maintained anymore. The kind of road that doesn't show up on GPS unless you zoom way in, then wonder if it's even still paved. I remember the moment my tires hit that road. Cracked black top swallowed in patches of leaves. No painted lines, no signs. Just me, the rig and the forest pressing close like a secret no one wanted to tell. My CB was quiet except for the occasional static crackle, and I hadn't passed another vehicle in over an hour. There were no lights out there. Just a cold, moonless stretch of Appalachia, and the sound of my own thoughts trying not to get too loud. I had just crested a long slope when I saw them. 3 semi-trucks parked across both lanes, staggered like some kind of weird blockade. No cones, no warning flares, no movement. Just big dark hulks of metal sitting shoulder to shoulder across the road. I slowed up, hitting my hazards and easing off the gas. At first, I figured it was some kind of accident or maybe a coordinated shutdown. But even from 50 feet out, something felt off. The trucks weren't damaged, they looked perfectly intact. No skid marks, no debris, just parked, like someone had told them to sit there and wait. I stopped about 30 yards back, headlights sweeping over the back end of the last trailer. My window was down a crack, and I remember how still the air felt. No wind, no insects, not even the distant rumble of coal trains in the valley below, just the faint ticking of my engine cooling against the cold air. "Breaker 19, I called out over the CB, my voice sounding too loud in the cab. "Got 3 big rigs blocking the road, near Tug Fork Bypass. Anyone copy?" Nothing, just static. Then something weird, the kind of static that hitches like a breath caught in someone's throat. I got out. Boots crunched on loose gravel as I walked toward the first truck. It was a Peterbilt, older model, faded red with a dull chrome grille. No company decals, just a small ghost of where they used to be, peeled off like someone had tried to erase its history. The cab door was shut, and when I peeked in, it was empty. No driver, no bags, no logbook on the dash. I checked the next 2 rigs. Same thing. All intact, all locked, all completely deserted. And then I noticed the trailers, fully loaded. You can tell by the way the suspension squats, the way the tires settle into the dirt. None of them were hauling empty, but there were no seals, no paperwork. When I climbed up and cracked the back latch of the third one, just a peek, it looked like unmarked pallets wrapped in shrink wrap. Industrial stuff, maybe, but no logos, no shipping info. Weirdest part? The logbooks. I finally found them, stuffed into the side pockets of each cab, and every one of them, I swear to God, was from 2010. Dated, signed, filled out like someone had just finished the run. 15 years ago. That's when I got back in my rig and keyed the mic again, trying to get someone, anyone, to answer. "Dispatch, this is Mason Rayburn. You copy? Got an odd one here. 3 trucks blocking the road near Tug Fork, loaded and logged under a company that hasn't existed in years. Need some eyes on this." And that's when it happened. All 3 sets of headlights flashed on, high beams, just for a second. Not staggered, not flickering. All 3 at the exact same moment, like someone flipped a single switch. Pow. Breath caught in my throat, and before I could move, they went dark again. Dead silent. I just sat there in my cab, hands still on the mic, heart pounding like a drum in a locked room. I didn't move for a full minute. Not until I heard something shuffle behind my rig. I turned my dome light on and twisted to look through the sleeper window. Nothing. But I swear I saw movement. A quick shape dipping into the tree line, like a person ducking out of sight. Locked the doors. A minute later, the CB crackled again, a low scratch of static followed by a short burst of garbled noise. Not words, not exactly, just something. It reminded me of a voice being filtered through a blown-out speaker, layered, with noise and dust. Then silence again. I was just about to turn around, take the long way back and deal with the time loss, when I saw something that made my blood run cold. The mile marker on the side of the road. A green sign propped against one of the parked trucks. Said MM34. That was impossible. I'd already passed mile marker 34 20 minutes ago. I checked my GPS. It glitched, briefly flashed recalculating, before resetting. And when it came back online, it showed I was 18 miles south of where I started on the bypass. Never turned around. My rig had only moved forward. I sat there a long while, trying to wrap my head around it. The 3 trucks. The company name stamped on the logbooks, Allegheny Freight Lines, had shut down after a fatal crash in 2010. I remembered. Lost a whole convoy in the mountains during an early snow. The trucks were never recovered. Just gone. I reached for my ignition key, ready to back out. That's when all three trailers made a sharp metallic creak. At the same time, like weight was shifting inside. Not sliding cargo, not natural dot something. Was moving dot inside dot. Then my CB hissed, clear this time, and a calm male voice came through, slow and steady. Last load, last light, last breath. My headlights flickered dot, and I saw a shadow move behind the middle trailer dot. It was tall, too tall dot, and walking toward me dot. The shadow moved like it had weight, not like some trick of the light or fog, but real, deliberate footsteps. Slow, steady. 1, 2, 3, and then it vanished behind the trailers. I threw the truck into reverse dot. Tires kicked gravel as I backed up hard, heart punching in my chest. I was shaking so bad I damn near missed the wheel trying to grip it. I had to get the hell out of there. Whatever this was, ghost story, backwoods ambush, hallucination, I was done playing dot. But then something else happened that made it worse dot. As I reversed around the bend, just past where the tree line dipped, I saw another truck parked on the shoulder dot, not blocking the road, just sitting there, facing the wrong direction, lights off, engine dead dot, and it was mine dot, same make, same color, same rig number, same plates. I was looking at my own truck parked a quarter mile behind me. I froze, completely froze. I turned off my headlights, reached slowly over to kill the engine, and just sat there in the dark, breathing in shallow gasps, waiting to wake up. But the cold was still there, the seat under me still stiff with age and sweat and miles. And through the windshield, the other me was still sitting just past the bend. No movement in the cab, no lights, no sign of life. I finally stepped out with a flashlight and crowbar, shaking like a leaf. My boots hit the ground hard, trying to remind myself I was real, that I wasn't dead or dreaming. I walked toward the copy of my rig, calling out, "Hey, who's there? This some kind of joke?" Nothing. The door was closed but not locked. I pulled it open and shined the light into the cab dot, empty dot, no driver dot. But it wasn't fully empty dot. Sitting in the cup holder was my coffee thermos. Same dent in the lid. Same faded Pilot Flying J sticker peeling off the side. And hanging from the mirror, my old red dice. I'd taken them down months ago. Everything inside that truck was mine, down to the scuffed seat cushion and torn map on the dash. Except for one thing, the logbook. It was lying open in the passenger seat. I picked it up. The last entry was written in my handwriting. Date, October 27, 2025. Route, Tug Fork Bypass Driver, M. Rayburn. Status, final haul complete. Awaiting light. My flashlight flickered. That's when the whisper came again. From inside the truck. Last load, last light, last breath. I dropped the book and bolted. Sprinted back to my rig, heart slamming so hard I could barely breathe. I fumbled the key, turned the engine over. It coughed, struggled, finally roared to life. The CB lit up again, and the voice returned, calmer this time, like it was smiling. "You've been marked, driver. The bypass don't give back what it's taken." I threw it in gear and tore down that road, dodging potholes and tree limbs like a man possessed. The bypass twisted in on itself, loops that didn't make sense, turns that weren't on any map. For a full hour I drove, and the GPS never moved. No matter how far I went, it just said, "You are here." But then, just as sudden as it started, I broke through the trees and shot out onto Route 52. My GPS blinked and recentered. I was back in the real world. Just like that. And behind me, when I looked in the mirror, the road was gone. I swear, to you, just a dirt slope overgrown with brush like nothing had ever been there. I kept driving straight to the Bluefield way station, parked, walked in. A trooper on night shift saw my face and asked if I was all right. I told him the short version. 3 trucks blocking the road, weird CB traffic mile markers that made no sense. When I mentioned Allegheny Freight Lines, he went real still. Where'd you say you saw those trucks? Tug Fork Bypass, he just nodded slowly like he'd heard it before. That route's been closed since 2010. Mudslide took it out. Nobody goes back there. You're lucky your rig didn't go over the edge. But it didn't, I said. The road was fine. Broken up, yeah, but still passable. He just looked at me and said, "There's no road there anymore. Washed out over a decade ago. You must have come through somewhere else." A few days later, I checked the DOT records myself. The trooper wasn't lying. That stretch of bypass had been closed permanently after a 3-truck wreck. All drivers vanished, cargo intact. The company? Allegheny Freight Lines. One of the trucks listed in the accident report matched a license plate I'd written down that night. Still listed as missing. They never found the rigs, or the bodies. Only trace they left behind was faint. CB interference, sometimes reported near the old Tug Fork trailhead. Truckers said it sounds like someone trying to hail them. Or warn them. Sometimes, when I'm parked late at night on a quiet haul, I still hear it. A whisper buried deep in the static. Last load, last light, last breath, and when I do, I never answer. Because I don't think they're calling for help. I think they're recruiting. I've been hauling freight up and down the Appalachians for the better part of 23 years now, and I've seen all kinds of weather, all kinds of folks, and all kinds of weird things you chalk up to exhaustion or bad gas station chili. But what happened near Brinsley Hollow? This one stuck with me, burrowed itself in, like a splinter in the brain. It's not a story I tell often. Hell, I don't even like remembering it. But lately I've started seeing things again, and it's made me wonder if telling the story might get it off my back. This was fall of 2020. I was running a late route through the Blue Ridge, headed toward a drop point just past the Virginia line. Brinsley Hollow was just a blip on the map, one of those places that doesn't show up on GPS until you're already halfway through it. The kind of place where fog doesn't just roll in, it crawls. Thick, clinging stuff that beads on your windshield like sweat. The day had started normal enough. I'd picked up a load of machine parts outside Roanoke and started heading south through the mountains. The sun dipped behind the ridges early, like it always does out there, and I found myself deep in the fog before I even realized night had fallen. 1 minute it was dusky blue, the next I was driving blind into what looked like a cloud. My CB was dead silent. No chatter, not even static. Cell signal dropped around the time I passed a faded sign half-eaten by vines that read, "Brinsley Hollow. Pop." I remember the triple question marks. Like someone didn't know or didn't want to say. I was rolling maybe 35 miles per hour. Slow crawl. The fog was so thick my headlights just bounced back at me like I was driving into cotton. My fingers were gripping the wheel tighter than usual, knuckles pale. The road dipped into a hollow, just a steep winding section with no guardrail on one side and dense woods on the other. That's when I saw him. A man. Just standing in the center of the road. I swear to God, he was motionless, pale, thin, arms by his sides. No flashlight, no reflective gear, just standing there like a damn scarecrow in the fog. I laid on the horn, a long, desperate blast, but he didn't move. No flinch, no turn of the head. It was like he didn't even hear me. I jerked the wheel hard right. The whole rig fishtailed. Tires squealed. I felt the weight of the trailer shift, the kind of lurch that makes your stomach twist. I damn near flipped it. But I stopped. Engine still running, heart beating so loud it drowned everything else out. I sat there for a second, breathing hard, palms sweaty on the wheel. I looked up. He was gone. Just fog and empty road. No blood, no body, not even a footprint. I threw it in park and climbed out, legs wobbling beneath me. The fog was thicker now, almost unnaturally so, swirling like it had a mind of its own. I walked to the front of the rig, shining my flashlight around. That's when I saw the cross. Small, wooden, looked hand-carved. It was planted dead center in the asphalt, like someone had taken the time to hammer it in. No flowers, no candles, just a simple wooden cross, barely a foot high. Curious, comma. I bent down to look at it closer, and that's when I saw the name, my name. Carved right into the wood. Mark Hensley. I jerked back like I'd been burned. My first instinct was to look around, scan the tree line, the ditches, anywhere someone might have been watching. But there was nothing, just fog and darkness, and the faint hum of my engine idling behind me. I didn't touch the cross. Couldn't bring myself to. I backed up slowly, climbed back into the cab, and locked the doors out of reflex. Even though I hadn't seen a soul, I should have turned around right then, called it in. But I didn't. I convinced myself it had to be some sick coincidence. Maybe another guy with the same name. Maybe some local prank. I kept driving. The road got worse. More curves, less shoulder. The fog didn't lift. My high beams started flickering like the bulbs were loose, but I checked them at the last stop. They were fine then. That's when the CB crackled to life. Just static at first, then a voice. Low, garbled, barely more than a whisper. It said, "Too late, Mark." That's it. Then silence. I grabbed the mic. "Who is this?" "Nothing." "Hello?" Still nothing. Then the static came back, and louder this time, like it was surging. I shut the CB off. At that point, I was spooked enough to be planning my next safe pull-off. Just needed to find a wide shoulder or turnout. That's when I saw the sign. Another wooden marker. Not a road sign. This one looked homemade, nailed into a tree on the right shoulder, half covered in moss. It said, "Next turn, don't stop." Next turn? I didn't even know there was a turn coming up. My GPS was still frozen. Just a blue dot on a gray void. Sure enough, maybe a quarter mile later, I saw a narrow gravel road cut off from the main path. No signs, no lights, just a break in the trees. I slowed, creeping past it. But as I did, my headlights lit up something. Just beyond the turn. Another man. Same build, same posture. Facing away from me this time. And beside him, another wooden cross. I kept driving, didn't stop, didn't breathe. About 5 minutes later, the fog started to thin, just slightly, and I finally saw lights in the distance. A truck stop, run down, but open, flickering neon, old pumps, looked like salvation. I pulled in, parked near the side, and sat for a second, trying to steady myself. I needed to get my bearings, maybe call someone, maybe check that cross again and confirm I wasn't losing it. But when I stepped down and looked back at the side of my trailer, I froze. There were handprints. Dozens of them. Small comma, like children's hands, pressed into the dust and grime that coated the trailer wall. Some smeared, some fresh, as if a bunch of little hands had been reaching up, grabbing, pulling. I backed up, mouth dry, turned toward the diner attached to the station, maybe get a coffee, use the phone. But before I went inside, I glanced back at the trailer one last time. There was a new mark. Dead center on the back door. Another cross, this one scratched in with something sharp, jagged, hasty. And under it, 3 words. See you soon. That's when the lights in the truck stop flickered once. Then went out. Total darkness. Except for the faint red glow that started pulsing from the trees across the road, like someone was waiting. I stayed frozen there for what felt like minutes, kneeling in the road, staring at that small wooden cross with my name carved into it. The fog had thickened around me, closing in like a heavy curtain. The air smelled like damp pine and something else, something faintly metallic like blood left out in the rain. I stood up slowly, glancing back at the truck. The engine was still idling. My headlights were muted by the fog, glowing in a dull, eerie way. I took a few shaky steps toward the shoulder, trying to get my bearings, when I heard it, the faintest crunch of gravel behind me. I spun around. Nothing. Just the road, my truck, the fog. but the air had changed. It felt charged, like the moment before a lightning strike. I walked back to the rig, climbed into the cab and locked the doors. My hands trembled as I pulled the CB mic down and keyed it. "This is Rig 71. Any ears on?" I said. Static. "Breaker, breaker. Anyone running near Brinsley Hollow come back?" The only reply was a soft crackle followed by a high-pitched whine, then, "Daniel." I nearly dropped the mic. The voice was low, male, but there was something wrong with it, like it was dragging through water. I shut the CB off. Screw. So I threw the truck in gear and pushed forward. Slowly at first, then faster, needing to put some distance between me and that cross. I didn't care if I was speeding through a dead zone. I just needed to find a turnoff or a sign of civilization. Something, anything to break the feeling that I'd crossed into some place I shouldn't be. The fog swallowed everything. I couldn't see the tree line, couldn't even see the ditches on either side of the road. I watched the mile markers tick by again, but something was off. I'd just passed marker 41, and then I passed 41 again. Identical dents, same rust stains. I knew because I'd made a note of it in my head the first time. "Hell no," I whispered. I tapped the brakes and pulled off to the edge, careful not to slide into the brush. I opened my GPS app. Nothing. No signal. Even the compass needle was just spinning in slow, aimless circles. Then I heard it again. Footsteps. Right outside the driver's side door. Slow comma, dragging footsteps on gravel. Not hurrying, not hiding, just moving. I held my breath. The footsteps stopped directly outside my window. I glanced over. Nothing. Just swirling fog and darkness. But then, the window fogged up. From the outside. A small, cloudy patch bloomed right in the center of the glass, like a breath from someone standing inches away. I stared, frozen. My pulse hammered in my ears. And then, just like before, slow and deliberate, a finger dragged down through the fog. A long, straight line. I slammed the truck into gear and punched it. The rig groaned, tires spinning slightly before catching grip. I didn't care if the trailer swung. I just needed to get out of there. The CB crackled back on by itself. I swear I hadn't touched the dial. And the same distorted voice whispered, "This is where it ends, Daniel." I ripped the cord out completely. The fog finally began to thin a few miles down. I saw the outline of a sign ahead and slowed down. It was one of those old green highway signs, but weathered and warped. The lettering was barely legible, but I made out "Welcome to Brinsley." That didn't make sense. I'd passed Brinsley 15 minutes ago, before the man in the road. This should have been 20 miles past it. Unless I'd gone in a circle. I pulled into a roadside pull-off area. There was a faded picnic table, an overflowing trash barrel, and a narrow gravel path that led into the woods. I got out, phone in hand, thinking I might at least catch a bar of signal. The second my boots hit the gravel, I felt it again. The silence. That wrong kind of silence, where even the bugs and birds don't make a sound. I walked a few feet down the path, waving my phone like an idiot. Still nothing. That's when I saw the second cross. Same size, same wood, same burnt lettering. But this one said, "Daniel R. Harlan, 0819 1127 p.m. That was today's date. And 11:27 p.m. was only a few minutes from now. I stared at it, heart thudding so hard I felt it in my teeth. Something cracked behind me, a twig, deliberate, and I turned, expecting to see some animal. Instead, I saw the man, again. Same figure I'd swerved to avoid. Standing motionless at the tree line, half shrouded in fog. Closer this time. Too close. I bolted back toward the truck, but the headlights were off. I hadn't turned them off. When I opened the door, the cab lights didn't come on either. Battery was dead. Come on. I threw myself into the seat, grabbed my phone, still dead signal, and looked up in time to see the figure moving. Slowly, but coming straight down the path. I locked the doors. He didn't run. He didn't need to. Just walked with that Same steady rhythm, like he knew I had nowhere left to go. I grabbed the tire iron from behind the seat. By now, I couldn't see his face, just a black silhouette against the pale fog. But he stopped maybe 20 feet from the truck, close enough to make out that he was barefoot. His clothes looked like a driver's, torn and wet, caked in mud and something darker. And then he raised his arm. Not to wave, not to reach. He pointed right at me. And smiled. The rig lights flashed on, high beams blinding for a second. Then total black. Darkness slammed down like a lid. I swung the door open, tire iron in hand, ready to fight or run or whatever my body decided. But there was nothing. No fog. No man. Just the cold woods and the quiet road and the faint smell of wet pine. I checked the dash. Clock read 11:28 p.m. 1 minute past the time carved on the cross. And I was still breathing. I stayed parked until sunrise. Nothing else happened. No more lights. No more footsteps. But when I finally turned the truck around and limped it back to town, battery somehow fine again, I asked around about Brinsley Hollow. Nobody would talk about it directly, but one old-timer at the diner leaned over and said, "You saw him, didn't you?" I didn't answer. He nodded anyway. "You ain't the first, you won't be the last. I left town that afternoon. And I haven't taken a load through Brinsley since. Don't plan to. But every now and then, late at night, on a foggy stretch of road, I glance in the mirror. And sometimes, just for a second, I think I see a man standing still, barefoot, right in the center of the road.